Welcome back to the Kriya Yoga Podcast. In this episode, we have a presentation by Donelle Mason, a Kriya Yoga teacher from New Zealand. She was with us for our June 2026 solstice retreat at the Himalayan Institute, and she gave a talk on the obstacles to success in our yoga, in our spiritual path. When she began her talk, she recommended that the participants have a pen, pencil, and a piece of paper to write with, because she has some contemplations, some things for you to think about, so that you can see how these obstacles might be developing in your life and ways that you might be able to reconcile them. So if you're listening to this podcast while you're going for a bike ride or a walk or driving down the road, that's fine. But I'd recommend taking some time to just sit quietly as you listen and to follow along, journaling about what you hear and how this particular topic might apply to you. Also, Donelle is going to be offering a 12-week online study group, Kriya Yoga study group, beginning in August of 2026. So if you're interested in participating in that, if you need more details, you can go to kriyayogaonline.com. You can go to the blog section, and there's an announcement for her 12-week study group. This will follow along with the 12-week Introduction to Kriya Yoga Meditation for Spiritual Growth. So you'll be accessing this on-demand material and then meeting with Donelle once a week to meditate together and to review each week's topic. If you're new to Kriya Yoga or are interested in just learning what Kriya Yoga is all about, this is a pretty good opportunity for you, although I've been told that the class itself is a little intense and might be a bit more than just for beginners. But from my perspective, I think it's good for beginners. And if you already have an established practice, this could be an excellent time for review to renew your commitment to your spiritual practice. These meetings will be held Eastern Time in the evening on a Thursday, August through October. And since Donelle is in New Zealand, if I have the time right, classes in New Zealand time will be held on a Friday morning around 10 a.m. New Zealand time. But again, you can go to kriyayogaonline.com, the blog section, find the announcement, and the registration information is there, as well as all of the details. And now, here is Donelle Mason's presentation on the antarayas, the obstacles that we might come up against during our spiritual process, and contemplations for how to work with them, how to move through them.
So we are looking particularly at one of the Yoga Sutras. We know that when Yogananda came out to America, he was told to teach from Sri Yukteswar, from the Yoga Sutras and from the Bhagavad Gita. So we're mainly looking at one sutra today, just one sutra, and we'll probably spend the next 60 to 90 minutes on one sutra. And that just tells you how rich they are, how much information is in there, how much unpacking there is to do. Yeah, it's a very, very full text. It has everything you need. Okay, so it's not, for those of you who have been here for a while, it's not really learning more or new, but maybe refining, what you already know. There are 9 primary obstacles. They are types of distractions and disruptions that show up naturally on our yogic path. They disrupt our mental focus, they hinder our progress, and they pull our awareness outwards and away from the stillness that we're all seeking. Yeah. So the sutra is 131. Yeah. They're up there. The sutra goes, Vyara, Sthana, Samshaya, Pramada, Lasya, Vidati, Branti Darshana, Labda Bhumakatva, Nivastatatvani, Chitta Vikshepa, Stentaraya. It's quite a mouthful, but there they are. There's the 9. Okay. So they are, and you don't have to write them all down now because we're going to go through each one, but they are sickness, dullness, doubt, carelessness, laziness, sense indulgence, false perception, non-attainment of any yogic stage, and an instability to maintain that stage. So the distractions are impediments or obstacles because they're in the way. Yeah? They throw the mind off the yogic path. They prevent progression to ekagrata, to one-pointedness. And they can even cause one to fall from the path of yoga if they're too serious. Yeah? So, for example, when doubt arises in the mind, when you've got this inner narrator that's saying, have I got the right technique? Is what I'm doing right? Is what I'm doing working? Am I meditating correctly? That's that doubt. So that's an obstacle. Yeah. When your practice becomes mechanical, just going through the stages, that's an obstacle. Yeah. Procrastinating, mental, physical laziness, obstacle. Yeah. Being drawn into worldly involvement, obstacle. Yeah. So today we're going to investigate all 9 in a bit more detail. And if something does stick out to you, then that's your chance to write it down and do a bit of work on it. Yeah. So even that word obstacle, yeah, this impediment, it brings up the sense that there's something in the way. Okay? There's something blocking our path. But what if we take a more helpful view and see it that they're actually just revealing where our awareness is not yet steady? So the path is actually revealing itself for us. We know that our yoga is a lifetime of continuous refinement. We start off, we've got this monkey mind all over the place. The years go by, we get steadier and calmer. The years go by, we're still refining. 26 years down the track, Ryan's still refining. 9 years down the track, I'm still refining. So it's a lifetime of getting subtler and more refinement. Yeah. If you feel like you're not progressing in your yoga, yet you have got like the sincere desire to progress, then it might be because one of these obstacles are in the way. Yeah. We know that Patanjali is very precise with his language in the sutras. There's 196 of these short, precise statements. The word sutra is a thread, a stitch, so they're stitched together. And no words are wasted. So the very fact that they are in the sutras, that they're in Para 1, Chapter 1, that also kind of brings our awareness to that it's important. It's not something that we can overlook. It's here. We need to dig into it a bit more. So according to the sutras, these impediments, they exist from our already existing mental troubles. Yeah. From the psychological storage of our experiences, our thoughts, our memories, and you might know these as our samskaras. Yeah? Yeah. So these are impressions of all things that are seen, done, felt. This is our storage. Yeah? And our samskaras, the storage, they create vasanas, and vasanas are our tendencies, the way that we act from the storage. Okay? And they're varied for all of us, and I probably don't need to tell you why. It's because we come from all corners of the world, different cultures, different upbringings, different experiences, and so therefore our storage, our samskaras, are different for all of us. Yeah. In terms of our practice, most of the time the person's quite unaware of what these are because they've been with us from the start. Yeah, that's our upbringing. Until you try and sit still in meditation and then you realise that they're quite a hindrance to progressing. If we learn to expect these disruptions and these distractions, then we're better placed to overcome the challenges when they do arise. Yeah? So we need to know what they are. We need to know what they are, how they show up, what they might look like, and we'll maybe talk about ways that we can overcome them together. All right. In the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, we remember that Arjuna is overcome on the battlefield, yeah? And it wasn't by any external difficulty that he's overcome, because he's a Kshatriya, he's a top-class warrior, very astute. He had no problem with the battle. He was overcome by his internal conflict. So it's a disturbed mind. And these antarayas, they show up as our own internal conflict. Yeah. They're said to be that which every practitioner will meet. Yet they're not mistakes, they're not signs of failure, they're just showing us where our awareness is not yet steady. Yeah. So we can view them not as enemies and not as obstacles, but as teachers. All right, let's dig into them. Number one we've got up there is vyadi. So it's illness or sickness. Illness, sickness. So this is an unbalanced, sick, weak, disturbed body or mind. Said to be an imbalance of the constituents of the body. I like to look that up. Like, what are the constituents of the body? Blood, flesh, bones, organs, systems, fluids, hormones, cognitive senses, the mind, things that make up the body. Yeah. So it's an imbalance of any of these. It manifests as physical sickness, mental illness, dis-ease, disorders. Yeah. It's hard to practice meditation and yoga when you're physically weak, tired and exhausted. Yeah. It's hard to practice when you've got strong emotional imbalances, yeah. Mental imbalances and disturbances. Things like depression, sadness, grief, anxiety, overwhelm. It's pretty hard to sit still and practice and be quiet when you've got those things going on. What happens is when we have these things going on, our mind reacts to the illness and creates all sorts of stories about it. And it's that mind reaction to the illness that can cause a lot of the disruption. Now, I'm sure we've all had experiences with this, yep, from the minor backache, blocked nose, cold, yep, to some of the more severe depression, grief, yeah, mental illnesses, overwhelm of emotions. So as I mentioned earlier, I do want to make this quite practical. So I would like you to just have a think about when has vyadi, when has illness or sickness shown up in your life as a hindrance, as an obstacle to your practice. Yeah. You can just jot that down. It's quite funny, I was putting my presentation together and just a couple of weeks ago, I think I'd been to see a client in the hospital and I caught a bug. I haven't been sick for a couple of years. And I'm like, oh, here we go. Caught a sickness so I can speak about it. And for 3 days, headache, achy body, pretty well flattened, and I'm a shocker for taking medication. I hate taking medication. Anyway, decided, all right, I'll have a Panadol, take some of this pain away, yeah. And you know, sure enough, I was more pleasant to be around. The headache went away. I could concentrate for a little bit longer, and I could do some gentle, meditation. So that was my, little minor illness and sickness that I had to overcome at that time. Yeah. We can think, is it a mind reaction to the illness? Okay. Everyone heard of man flu? Yeah. Mind reaction, overreaction. Okay. Is it really that bad? Can I not meditate because my back is sore, or can I just find a different posture? Yeah. If I can't meditate with my knees crossed, it doesn't not make me a worse yogi. Just to find another posture. Yeah. So sickness and illness. Brian spoke about the pillars of yoga and meditation yesterday, and as a health coach I always look at lifestyle as medicine first. So all those basics, sleep, diet, exercise. If there's something that you're not doing that you could be doing to overcome the illness, then you start there. That's pretty obvious. Yeah. That might be enough to purify and ease some of the imbalances, just getting some better sleep and eating better. Yeah. So Shaucha, one of the niyamas, Shaucha comes to mind, purifying your diet, your lifestyle, doing what we can to recover from the illness. Okay. Perhaps resting and recovering is what's required. And some people have a predisposition to pushing and forcing through these things. Oh, it's fine. I'm going to go for a run anyway. You know, I've got shin splints. No, it's okay. I'll keep going. Yeah. Yeah. So remembering, if you are unwell, then the advice is not to do those strong Kriya pranayamas. Yeah. But you can do gentle Sushumna, japa, mantra. Yeah. You can listen to all of Ryan's thousands of hours of content. Yeah, there's always something you can do. Being appropriate, rest, acceptance, healing, seeking professional help, obviously, if you need it, mentally or physically. But what if it's a substantially more complicated illness? Yeah. What are we being asked to look at then? How can we make peace with what's present if that is occurring? How can we accept that as part of the divine too? If this is showing up, then it's our attention that's been drawn to something that's not yet understood. Maybe we are being asked to contemplate that abhinivesha, that fear of death. Maybe we're being guided to contemplate our eternal nature, that will still remain after the mind and the body and the senses cease to exist. Okay, Vyadi. Physical, mental disruptions. We want to investigate this and especially the mind's reaction to it. Okay. Next one, Sthana. You can write down dullness. Dullness, density. So this can show up as a disinclination, mind turning away from practice because of habitual procrastination, restlessness, fickleness, a general lack of enthusiasm for the practice. That's what Sthana is. Yeah. The mind refusing to settle down and being applied in a constant manner. It's characterised by a heaviness, which we know as tamas, yeah? A lack of enthusiasm, finding excuses. Losing enthusiasm to that which you'd started. So it's a distracted mind, even without a physical cause like illness. Yeah? Refusing to do the work that you've set for yourself. Tamasic, dullness, lethargy, an unwillingness to do practice. All right, so take a moment to think, when in your practice, in your life, have you experienced a dullness, a heaviness, and an unwilling to do practice? You may not have yet. It may have shown up. So if this dullness has shown up, what could we do about it? We've got to notice it first of all. We've got to know that it's there. Yeah. It's listed, it's on the path. It's a disruption that will show up. Yeah, nothing wrong, it's there. Maybe we could think, has it become a habit? Being a bit curious as to when it shows up. It's like, okay, I want to get to that 15-minute mark of my meditation, and there it is. Okay. Is it a habit? Is there a pattern to it? What's the inner conflict that I am experiencing? We know that Kriya Yoga is tapas, svadhyaya, and ishvara pranidhana, so we can always look to that. Yeah. Tapas, how might I bring more burning enthusiasm and discipline to my practice? Retreat is great way to reignite Yeah. A couple of changes to a stagnant routine can be another way. Yep. An inspiring book. Sometimes I notice if I'm carrying a bit of tamasic, dull energy, then I'll clean my altar. I've got a statue of Babaji, and I'll dust and a spruce up and a clean and a flower. Yeah, bring some more energy to it. Incense, fragrance, spiritualizing it. Yeah, lifting this dullness. Ryan's got monthly lessons, you're probably aware of, on the Patreon community, so they're a really good way of having a focus for a month. Maybe it's a sutra that you're studying for a month, or a yama or a niyama. You could pick one of these. Yeah. So if you're feeling you've got dullness in your practice, what can you do to reignite it? Yeah. Is it a pattern that appears in other areas of your life? You start off an exercise routine full of enthusiasm and hello, down the track, there it goes. Yeah. Start a new diet, no sugar, 2 days in, oh dear. So we want to build discipline and create habits. Yep. Your future is shaped by the habits that you repeat, not the goals that you set. Yeah. Here's our goal, self-realization, God-realization. Not going to get from here to there without discipline and habit. Yeah. And we can use a bit of rajas to get rid of the tamas. So a bit more activity. Yeah. Sit up straight, roll your shoulders back, have a stretch, go for a walk. What can you do to reignite that dullness in your practice? Okay, look at number 3, samshaya, doubt. So doubt is questioning your own ability, questioning the method, questioning the process, questioning the guru. Unable to trust one's own abilities or the abilities of their teacher. And in doubt, the mind keeps sort of oscillating back and forth between a couple of possibilities. Whether what you've been taught is correct or incorrect. Whether you should apply it or not. Faith, lack of faith. Yeah, this vacillating, oscillating doubt. So it's a turbulent mind, and that's an obstacle. And if left unchecked, it can go all the way that you're even questioning the existence of a pure consciousness, and then you could fall from yoga. All right, your reflection. When have you experienced doubt? When is it showing up? What did that look like? How did you reconcile it or overcome it? So we want to work on being rid of doubts. It's said that keeping company with a calm, sure-minded preceptor is a way of removing doubt. Yeah? Ryan's been practicing for 26 years. Roy Eugene Davis, I think it was 70 years. Yeah. Paramahansa Yogananda, lifetime. Yeah. We're really blessed with this lineage. Yeah. And sure, calm-minded preceptors. Yeah. So the company is also who you hang out with in your thoughts. Yeah. I was talking to a student, and she was saying to me that in the meditation yesterday, she was sitting there and had this thought, and then Ryan's voice came into her head. You know, you're hanging out with a sure-minded preceptor. You've got that company there. Much better to hang out with the saints and sages and masters and teachers than with that doubting mate that's always going to pull you into trouble. Yeah. So rereading, re-listening to instructions, that's helpful. I frequently do that. This book Here it's fantastic with all the techniques. Frequently look at it. If you're learning something new, have it beside you, open up. Am I doing it correctly? That's going to remove your doubt. Yeah, check in. I need to know that what I'm practicing is what's been taught to me, and I want to know that what I'm teaching is what's been taught to me. It's not my ideas. Yeah. Other ways of removing doubt. We've got teachers. You know, you've got the Q&As where you can post your questions and get answers. Yeah. Got Brian. I get emails from time to time, Zoom sessions. We're happy to help. Yeah, to help you remove your doubt. You want to think about your questions. Yeah. So if you've got a question that comes up, sit on it for a little while. Meditate on it. Ask at the end of your meditation practice, seeing if Spirit can answer it. I never really had a lot of questions in the 9 years, but I really enjoyed listening to other people's questions. I learned a lot from that. Yeah. Or if I'd have one, sure enough, it would get answered either by someone else's question or in some other strange, bizarre moment. Yeah, like, how about that? All right, so yeah, using your resources for guidance and to remove doubt. I was also told, as you probably have been early on, not to discuss your spiritual practice too much with others. Yeah, it's a very personal, sacred practice, and I know we're here and we're practicing together. But other than the teachers and those that you trust, if you're sharing it a lot, then it can kind of remove a bit of its power, and you open yourself up to, others' judgment and scrutiny, and that can have an impact. That can all lead to doubt, yeah. And the best way to remove doubt is from the clarity that comes from experience. Roy Davis said, you want to be a knower, not a believer or a spectator, but a knower. So keeping a journal of your small insights and wins along the way, that can be helpful, because then you know that you have overcome doubt before. If your energy is placed on doubt, that oscillating, then that's going to grow. Be careful where you put your energy. Thich Nhat Hanh, the Buddhist teacher, he's got this lovely analogy that if you've got this garden, and if you're watering the garden, you're watering weeds, weeds are going to grow. So weeds are your unskillful thoughts like doubts. So if you find yourself watering your weed garden, then you want to take your watering can to the flower garden and water the seeds that lead to flowers. So doubt's like a weed, it can take over. Yep. So don't water it. Right. Number 4, pramada. Carelessness. Carelessness in practice, negligence in not giving your full attention to the practice, even though you value it. So there's some disinterest or loss of awareness. It could be rushing through your meditation, yeah? Speedy practices. Got to get to work, got to do something else. I'll just rush through these 24 pranayams and out the door I go, yeah. Not paying attention, not being present, daydreaming, carelessness. Yeah. So pramada is quite tricky because it often appears quietly. You might still be doing the practices, yeah, but that depth or clarity or intention, it's just slipped. It might be dull and foggy. So you could ask yourself, am I awake and aware going through the practices, or am I just going through the motions? Yeah? And if your answer is you're just going through the motions, then that's pramada creeping in. You might notice you're on autopilot, you're daydreaming, just mentally elsewhere. Yeah? And you finish your 30 minutes, whatever it might be, and you're like, oh, well, I wasn't really there. Yeah. It can be negligence in not following the other 8 limbs of yoga, the yamas and the niyamas. If you're not practicing truthfulness, non-harming, non-grasping, that could be where your negligence and carelessness is. Maybe you're not giving the right amount of attention to your pranayama or the chakras. Yeah. going too fast, too speedy, too mechanical. So it's forgetting what matters and then rationalizing or justifying those habits that pull you off the path. And that creates a carelessness in practice. And from that carelessness, you're going to lose momentum and then lose discrimination. Got a verse here from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, verse 36. Krishna spoke, "Without doubt, O Arjuna, the mind is unsteady and difficult to restrain. But by practice, Arjuna, and by indifference to worldly objects, it is restrained." So, little reflection now. When have you experienced carelessness in your practice? If you can recognize it, when it's showing up. These are obstacles that we all face. So if we've noticed it first, great. Yeah. We want to cultivate consistency with sincerity. So better to do 15, 20 minutes of awake and aware meditation than a couple of hours daydreaming. Maybe reconnecting to why you chose to practice in the first place. You know, it's common for yogis and spiritual seekers to come to a path like this when life's going a bit shit. Yeah? Maybe your life's not so shit anymore and you're wondering why you're still practicing. Yeah. So reconnect to your why. We don't want to wait for more hardship to come, because it will. But this path of yoga is that which is going to help us with that suffering when it does show up. Okay. The only way to be sure is to be sure in this lifetime before we go. So when carelessness occurs and the mind wanders distracted, we know it's normal, we know it's to be expected. There's nothing wrong happening when it does. What's being revealed is where your awareness is not yet steady. Okay? The path's revealing itself. We're being supported. You can sit upright, focus on the breath again, technique, mantra, support. Redirect your attention back to that observer that is witnessing you in your meditation. So to reduce carelessness, we want to increase alertness. And try and come back like quicker and cleaner each time, more deliberately. You'll start to catch it a bit faster. Okay, I'm being careless. Straight back, without narration, straight back. It's yoga practice, not yoga perfect. Yeah. And that's rewiring. It's a rewiring of our samskaras, creating new habits. And then after your session, after your meditation, you can reflect on how awake and alert was I in my meditation. Yep. Not how calm you were, not how long you sat for, not how much bliss you experienced, yep. But how awake and aware were you? So instead of carelessness, we focus on care. All right. Number 5, alasya. Sloth. If you want a nicer word, you can use lethargy. I like sloth. Laziness. A tendency to avoid exertion and fall back on a love of comfort and ease. Not engaging in the practice because of lethargy of the body or mind. Failing at the endeavour being still quiet meditation because of laziness or sloth. Yeah, it's tamaskuna again. Causes distraction and ineffectiveness of practice. It becomes impossible to progress in yoga with laziness and sloth. Avoiding exertion. You've heard the saying that nothing worthwhile is ever easy. It's hard work. You've got to be dedicated and disciplined. You're here. It's important in your life. So laziness is an obstacle. Have you experienced it? Write it down. Yeah. Have you experienced laziness and sloth? Loved it. Lots. Yeah. It's in the sutras for a reason. Roy Davis says, even if you don't have the desire to practice, assume the position and make it your spiritual duty. Do a little bit of pranayama. Acknowledge that tamas is present. It's part of the divine too. Can you witness the tamas but not be caught up in it? Do what's needed to shift the energy. So we're back to using a little bit of rajas to get past the tamas. Again, remembering why you decided to seek out self-realization in the first place. Was it a discontent of your present state? Moderation in diet, wakefulness and enthusiasm can conquer sloth. Yep. Your daily routines, your spiritual duty. And eventually you'll want to do it. Yeah. And there's nothing that will be able to stop you. It will be that priority. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, verse 16. Yoga is not for one who eats too much, nor for one who eats too little, not for one who sleeps too much, nor for one who sleeps too little. For one who is moderate in food and recreation, moderate in effort and actions, moderate in sleep and wakefulness, yoga becomes the destroyer of suffering. So motivation grows from action, not the other way around. Much like we spoke about with dullness, discipline and habit. If you recognise you have got this tendency to fall back into sloth and comfort and ease, then you're asking yourself, what have been the most valuable lessons in my life? Not the easy ones. I think it was Roy that said, you say that you want yoga, but you're avoiding the very thing that is like most helpful, most useful. What's that about? When you do overcome it, that builds strength, vidya, strength. Yeah. Greater fulfillment, confidence in your own ability, inner peace, success in yoga. Yep. So don't be a sloth. All right. Number 6, avidity. Avidity. So vidity, the word vidity, but starting with V, refers to cessation, abstinence from worldly attachments and unwholesome actions. And when we put that A in front of it, it's the negation of that, so it's avidity. So it's not abstaining. Yeah? Being overwhelmed by the pull of the senses, overindulgence. Okay? Sexual preoccupation. And impulsiveness is there, a need to constantly satisfy the senses. And this strong pull of the senses prevents one from concentrating on yoga. Again, back to the Bhagavad Gita. The turbulent senses carry away forcibly the mind, Arjuna, even of the striving man of wisdom. So again, it's to be expected. Yeah. It's where your awareness is not yet steady. The path revealing itself. So your reflection, when have you experienced avidity? Non-abstinence, strong pull of the senses, when has that interrupted your practice? I can think of the addictions, gambling, alcohol, drugs, sex, rock and roll. Yeah. Maybe it's sports. running, extreme sports. Yeah. Every generation will have its different pull. It might be TikTok. Adrenaline activities, skydiving, rock climbing, strong pull of the senses. So a simple way to start gaining control of the senses is with food. Yeah. Moderation. Can we just eat till we're 80% full? Yeah. Not overindulgence. So it's this balance, this moderation, brahmacharya. Digital detox days, they're great at the moment. And retreats are great for that, yeah. One of my clients decided for herself, she was facing some severe depression, and she came up with her own idea that the phone was a hindrance. And so when she came home from work, she put the phone in the drawer, set a normal alarm, you know, the old analog alarm, put the phone in the drawer and not use it in the evenings. You know? And what happened over time is that she started knitting, she started reading, the dog got a brush, yeah. She talked to some family, she went for a walk, and little glimpses of hope started to come back in her life when she was quite seriously down the path of suicide ideation. Yeah. So sense control, yeah. Bhagavad Gita, there is no wisdom in him who is uncontrolled, and there is likewise no concentration in him who is uncontrolled. And in him who does not concentrate there is no peace. How can there be happiness for him who is not peaceful? Sexual preoccupation comes into here as well. Yep. The sutras, when established in sexual restraint, vigour is obtained. So we're sending our energy to our spiritual practice rather than being drawn into sexual preoccupation, okay? Which is a lower chakra, yeah, Muladhara chakra based thing. We're moving our energy up through the spine in our practices, away from here to our higher brain centres and our higher chakras. That's part of it. Okay, so you could try and remain a little bit aloof from some of your worldly affairs, yeah. Develop a disinterest in them. It's quite tricky because senses can't really forcibly be controlled. It's better to practice the removal of the mind from the stimulus despite it being present. Yeah. So for people who are, giving up smoking, giving up weed, they might still have it in their house. Okay, it's not because it's not there. They haven't forced themselves. It's there, but they're choosing. They're making a conscious choice, yeah, to not go there. And you do find that as you progress that these worldly attachments, they fall away. There's less desire. They lose their appeal. They become dull and unalluring. It's just another worldly experience. Yeah. Haven't we had enough? Yeah. If you want to come back, you haven't had enough. And as said in the sutras, all these experiences are mixed with pain, sorrow and fear. Some degree of those. Okay. That's avidity. Good. All right. That was helpful. I love the yay. That one felt good, eh? Yeah. Yeah. So we're up to number 7 on there. Bhranti darshana. So this is false perception. False perception, an error of seeing. So it's confusion, misunderstanding about the teachings, misunderstanding about the philosophy or the progress. Making errors in understanding and errors in judgment. Perceiving something incorrectly, and then in that error, accepting that mistaken point of view. Yeah? So viewing a fact as a non-fact. Yep. Confusion about what to do, how to do it. Maybe it's confusion with where you are at in your practice. Could be deciding to go against what one's been taught, or going against the guru. So an example is, so my mind has stopped. Must be samadhi. Yeah. False perception. Mm-hmm. Having one blissful meditation experience and thinking you're self-realized. Yeah. I mean, the experience is real, but the interpretation of it is false. So the difference between doubt, samshaya, one of the previous ones that we looked at, and this era of seeing, is that in doubt you've still got this possibility, you're still vacillating, it could be true, it could not be true. But in false perception, you've accepted it, that it's not, okay? So it's rejected the possibility of another fact completely. It's settled on the idea. So another example is mistaking some of the earlier stages of samadhi for the higher stages. Yeah. One of those common traps is that mistaking bliss, yeah, for full realization. So this one, along with doubt, is said to be, two of the most difficult impediments. And they get in the way of ending the vrittis and the fluctuations. Yeah. Because it's not knowing what's to be removed because you've accepted it falsely. Yeah, so have a think about if there has been a time when you've experienced false perception, error of seeing. I know I've caught in the trap of bliss. Yeah. And what I needed to do was inquire more, what's beyond. I've also had some quite profound meditation experiences, but I've dismissed them because they weren't mystical or fantastical enough. So how might we clear up false perception? Hearing the teachings often. We come back, they're repeated. Shravana is this listening and hearing. Yeah. Hearing the truth. Going to your resources.
Now, what is the difference between bliss and full realization?
Save it for the end.
What is the difference between bliss and full
realization? We'll save it for the end. Save it for the end of the talk, and then we'll, yeah. Okay, so we want to hear the teachings often. We want to reflect on them. Yep. Shravana, manana, nididhyasana. So that's listening, hearing, reflecting, meditating, and assimilating. And we want to be humble, because humility is going to keep the learning alive as well. Yeah. Seek guidance. Keep refining your yoga. Does anyone know what a kumara is? No, we call it a kumara in New Zealand. It's a sweet potato, I think you call it in Australia. So there's a saying, like a proverb in Māori culture, and it says that the kumara, the sweet potato, does not speak of its own sweetness. So be humble. Okay, so pretty obvious, I think, that, yeah. Yep. Number 8, alabdha bhumakatva. Non-attainment of any yogic stage or level. Not obtaining ground in your practice, that bhumi's ground. So it might be when you're stuck at a level or a stage for some time without progressing in understanding or in knowledge or in actual experience. That feeling of stagnation can create discouragement. It can even lead to the stoppage of practice. You become discouraged and disheartened. So it's a level or a stage that doesn't appear to be being mastered, even though you're really practicing quite hard. Considerable practice and effort can occur from wrong ways of practicing. False perception or any of the previous authorized that we've looked at can occur from any of those. Sickness, dullness, doubt, sloth, laziness, So this points to our understandings of the teachings not deepening. And if your understanding is not deepening, then you can be a bit vulnerable. You can doubt your own ability to progress. You might consider quitting the practice or looking for another path or another teacher. So when might you have experienced this? Non-attainment of a stage or a level. Being stuck somewhere for some time. So it's obviously a hindrance if we're stuck. However, it's quite important to note that progression in yoga is not always obvious, is it? Sometimes there's just this subtle assimilation that's happening before you get the next breakthrough. Maybe you've got some occasional moments of clarity and that's just enough. And keep pulling you along. No practice is wasted. No meditation is wasted. No moments of stillness. No glimpses of awareness is wasted. It's causing these imprints. Every time you choose to meditate and sit still, creating an imprint, a habit. So quite a few of the scriptures, the Shastras, speak of the 7 stages. So I'll just briefly bring up a couple of them. I mean, we've got Roy Eugene Davis has got the 7 Lessons in Conscious Living. Is that his book? Yoga Vasishta has got the 7 stages. They're a gradual progression, continuous refinement. So it's not a race, it's just a deepening. So comparing's not helpful, So first of all, we've got these stages, and you don't have to write these down, it's a little bit of discussion, but first of all, we've got the spiritual longing. It's a good desire. You're attracted to sacred teachings and gatherings like this. So we've all got that, we're all here. Spiritual longing. And then investigation and inquiry begin. Maybe you're working at right living and purification, reorganising your life, regulating your habits and your study, reflecting and meditating. Then we get to what's called an attenuated mind, which is where the mind is thinning out. The mind's losing its density, its calmer, less distracted. More concentration, inward focus. Maybe you're getting towards one pointedness or spiritual eye focus. And then we get established in it. Established in this interiorization. There's a natural stillness, you're less reactive. Reduced pull, and you might be noticing some inner light or om about here, about 4. Then we move into deep meditation. Superconscious glimpses. That word superconscious is just higher or above your normal state of consciousness. Witnessing thoughts rather than being in them. It's a deep silence and equanimity. And then we get the samadhi state, transformative perception, transformative shifts in identity, acting without any personal attachments or any desires to the fruits of your actions. And then the final stage is a stable self-realization, abidance in those higher states. Yogananda calls it remaining inwardly united with spirit while outwardly active. It's called liberated while living. And the sutras also talk of 7 stages. They speak of it as, number 1, what must be known becomes known. Number 2, what must be removed begins dissolving. Number 3, direct knowing dawns. Number 4, your practice matures. Number 5, the mind becomes inwardly free. Number 6, disidentification is stabilized. And then number 7 is kaivalya, liberation. So they're from the sutras. So that is in Sutra 2.27 if you want to look that one up. Tasya saptada brantabhumihi pragya. His wisdom, the accomplished yogi, to the last stage is 7-fold. So I've just brought that up to do with these stages and levels of this one. So I think the take home from here is advanced yoga is just practicing with more awareness. And we also want to be like a kind and encouraging self-coach to ourselves as well. Not a harsh, critical self-coach. Good. All right. Anastitattva. Our final one, our final obstacle, impediment, antaraya, is instability. Instability. So progress has been made but not sustained. A certain level of achievement, a certain level is achieved, but it's unstable. Results from your practice that's maybe not consistent, or from the unsteadiness of the ground previously attained. In a podcast not that long ago, I listened to Ryan, I think it was Push Your Mystery. Am I saying that right? Yep. And they were saying, is one enlightening experience enough? And the answer was no. Stability is more important. So breaks, interruptions, regression, they're all part of instability. So you want your daily meditation or your twice daily meditation, whatever you've set for yourself, it's more important than this intermittent. And once you've gained that ground, you want to stay there. Otherwise you're going backwards. It's like leaving a bad relationship and going back to it. Quitting smoking and then going back to it. In the Yoga Sutra's commentary, the Sage Vyasa, he says that it's picking up again something that was already abandoned. It's like imitating a dog's behaviour. It's like, as a dog licks its own vomit, so I am picking up again what is already being abandoned. It's already discarded. Why would you go back? So this is ground, the stability of what you've already attained. So reflection, Have you experienced an instability, a slipping back? Is the ground unstable? Is there anything that caused that? Breaks, interruptions, regression? We come back to our tapas, svadhyaya, nishvara pranidhana, our Kriya Yoga. Commit to a regular practice that builds on itself, deepens over time. Not sure if it was Ryan or Roy, but if continuous practice is adhered to, then soul unfoldment is inevitable. Is that you, right? Might be Roy? Yeah. Maybe you've fallen into a category where you haven't got much momentum going on. Yeah. You want to be consistent for a long time. I've got those intensities, mild, moderate, intense. That practice, when continued for a long time without breaks and with devotion, becomes firm in foundation. Sutra 1.30. You can look into these last couple of those of you who've been doing the Sanyama practice. The Samkhya philosophy might be helpful with these levels and stability as well. So if you're working with the elements, the gross level, and then we're moving up through the senses, and then we're moving up to the mind, these can be ways of knowing where our ground is as well. Yeah. So pretty much that's what we have, the 9 impediments, obstacles that all practitioners will come across, they will face. Disruptions, distractions and hindrances to yoga. And it's said that the interruptions have the accompanying disruptions of pain, dejection, restlessness of the body and disturbed inhalation and exhalation. So if these distractions are not present, if you're not facing any of them, then those fluctuations and the chitta, they won't occur. Some of them can be quite troublesome. Others you might not have even noticed. They might be fleeting. And it's encouraging to know that as you practice more, that they do arise less frequently. Swami Veda Bharati states that unless one has overcome all of the previous antarayas, the higher ground is simply not obtained. We do want to dig into them. Viewing them as teachers, meeting each obstacle with curiosity and compassion, courage. Viewing them as invitations, where our awareness is not yet steady. They can become stepping stones rather than obstacles. There's one other sutra that goes on past, so that was 131, and then 132 is the fear and disruptions of the inhalation of the breath in the body, and then 133 is that sutra that says it's the practice of the single truth. So the word is tattva, so practice of a single truth, but tattva can also be a principle. So practice of a single principle. And that single principle might be purusha. So all of those antarayas can be overcome by the practice of a single principle. So just taking one more moment now to have a look back over what you've written. Which obstacle is showing up for you most right now? What's the path being revealed to you? Solution to all our obstacles is going to come through the steady process of sadhana, our spiritual practice. Over time, our ego mind will gradually dissolve back into itself. Dropping away of the false sense of self, which is where they arise. You already have that within you, okay? It's already there. Whole, complete, pure. So if you're already it, then it's just knowing it and being it. All right. Om.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Kriya Yoga Podcast. To learn more about Kriya Yoga meditation, you can visit us at kriyayogaonline.com, where you can find information about current book releases, online classes, and in-person retreats throughout the year. If you're interested in supporting this podcast, visit us at the Kriya Yoga Online Patreon community at patreon.com/Kriya Yoga.